Welcome, brave souls. This is our Scary Stories, the podcast that ventures into the darkest corners of your imagination. I'm your guide through the shadows, your teller of tales that raise the hair on your neck and send chills down your spine. As the moon hangs heavy in the sky and the whispers of the night beckon you closer, prepare to tread where fear and curiosity entwine. Tonight, we delve into a realm where time weaves a terrifying tapestry, and the boundaries between the past, present, and future become horrifyingly blurred. So, turn down the lights, let the darkness embrace you, and open the door to the unknown. Welcome to the Ghost of Futures Past. A shrill scream shattered the otherwise quiet tranquility of the night, causing Alex's heart to thunder against his chest. His eyes snapped open, and he sat bolt upright in his bed. He was drenched in a cold sweat, his hands shaking as he struggled to calm his racing heartbeat. The piercing alarm of his digital clock flashed an unforgiving 3:33 a.m. in eerie green numbers. Outside, the world lay dormant, shrouded in a cold darkness only penetrated by the feeble glow of a street lamp. Alex could hear the somber rhythm of his city apartment, the distant rumble of a car, the soft hum of his refrigerator, the occasional creak of settling timber. The smell of stale city air seeped in through the slightly ajar window, mixing with the faint scent of old books lining his bedroom shelves. Struggling to regain his composure, Alex swung his legs out of bed. His bare feet met the cool hardwood floor, a chilling sensation that sent shivers snaking up his spine. His apartment felt unusually cold that night, an ominous chill that clung to his skin, making him feel uncomfortably exposed. The nightmarish vision was still vivid in his mind. He saw a twisted wreck of metal and shattered glass, heard the terrifying shriek of tearing metal, and the eerie silence that followed. He could still smell the acrid scent of burning rubber, the metallic tang of blood, and taste the bitter fear in his mouth. It was just a dream, he reassured himself. But the potent realism of the nightmare left him rattled. The following day, Alex's daily routine was a blur. As an editor at a prominent publishing company, he was used to spending his days immersed in fantasy worlds. Yet, the haunting images from his nightmare tainted his every thought, casting a dark shadow over the usually vibrant tales he read. Then, as he scrolled through a news app on his lunch break, a headline stopped him in his tracks. Horrific car crash on West Bridge claims 3 lives. The accompanying image was eerily familiar, a chilling replica of the twisted wreck from his nightmare. The taste of his half-eaten sandwich turned to ash in his mouth. Alex felt a wave of nausea wash over him as a horrifying realization set in. His dream had come true. Later, in the solitude of his apartment, Alex sat in silence, surrounded by the muted grays of his minimalist furniture. His home had always been his sanctuary, a cocoon shielding him from the world's chaos. But now, the comforting hush felt suffocating. The whispering wind outside seemed to be carrying secret, dreadful messages, and the shadows cast by his solitary desk lamp danced like sinister specters on the wall. Alex shivered, pulling his woolen blanket tighter around him. His mind was a whirlpool of panic and confusion. Could he predict the future, or was he losing his grip on reality? The seed of doubt had been planted, sending icy tendrils of fear slithering into his thoughts. He was left alone, haunted by an unseen terror, a prisoner in his own home, tormented by a terrifying ability he neither asked for nor wanted. Little did he know, it was just the beginning. In the weak morning light, Alex's apartment felt hollow, the events of the previous day still weighing heavily on his mind. Shadows loomed menacingly over his half-eaten breakfast, the monotonous drone of the city below echoing ominously in his ears. His coffee, typically a comforting aroma that filled his apartment, had an acrid smell that set his nerves on edge. Each mundane detail was amplified, imbued with a sinister quality. His usual morning routine of reviewing manuscripts was forgotten. Instead, he found himself reading the accident reports, his fingers tracing over the chilling details that mirrored his own horrific dream. As he scrolled, a cold dread seeped into him, filling him with an anxiety that gripped him tighter with each passing second. As twilight draped the cityscape in shades of deep blue and mauve, a chilling draft curled around Alex's bare feet, making the hair on his neck stand up. His heartbeat quickened as he fought to keep his mounting fear at bay. That night, sleep was a distant memory. The ghostly pallor of moonlight streamed through his window, casting eerie patterns on his bedroom walls. As the digital clock beside his bed blinked 2:22 a.m., a sense of foreboding crept up on him, an unseen dread that seemed to manifest from the heart of the night itself. Then it came, the second premonition, more terrifying than the first. He found himself standing in an unfamiliar building consumed by flames. The crackling fire was deafening, its furious dance painting monstrous shadows on the walls. Heat radiated off the angry flames, making his skin prickle, while the harsh, smoky air made him choke. The ominous creaking of weakened timber echoed in his ears, punctuated by distant, desperate cries for help. Jolting awake, his body shook with terror, his eyes wide and filled with the reflection of imaginary flames. The soft, orange glow from the street lamp outside his window cast an unsettling hue in his room, stoking his fear further. The stench of smoke seemed to cling to him, a phantom sensation from his nightmare that made his stomach churn. Another day dawned, and Alex could only watch in helpless horror as the news report confirmed his worst fears. A devastating fire had taken several lives in a downtown building overnight. The televised images matched his nightmare, each horrifying detail a reflection of his own vision. His heart pounded in his chest like a muffled drum, the room seeming to close in around him. A tormented prisoner of his own mind, Alex was now caught in a chain of relentless terror. The world around him buzzed with mundane city sounds, but all he could hear was the deafening silence of his solitude, the chilling whispers of his dread. A line between his waking hours and his haunted dreams was blurring. Fear had tightened its grip, turning each day into a horrifying echo of the night's terror, a chilling cycle that was only just beginning. That night, as the moon reached its zenith, a sense of icy unease wrapped itself around Alex's apartment. The outside world seemed to hush as if holding its breath. Within the confines of his home, each creak of the floorboards and hushed whisper of the wind felt amplified, punctuating the silence like a chilling symphony. Alex sat on his worn-out couch, anticipation pricking his skin like needles, awaiting the inevitable horror of sleep's embrace. As sleep finally claimed him, his dreams were swallowed by a consuming darkness, a void that seemed to pulse with an ethereal light. From this abyss, a figure began to materialize, a wisp-like entity devoid of discernible features. Its form shimmered like moonlight on water, indistinct yet undeniably present. A cold dread seemed to emanate from it, the room temperature dropping as the apparition drifted closer. The ghostly figure spoke, its voice echoing around him like a hollow wind. The words were cryptic, full of riddles that hinted at the horrors to come. The sound seemed to resonate within Alex, a chilling melody that filled his very being with a tangible terror. Stirring from his slumber, Alex awoke, a chill lingering in his bones. The spectral figure had vanished, leaving behind a silence that rang in his ears louder than any words. His apartment seemed colder, the very air thick with a haunting energy. The once comforting city lights outside his window now blared menacingly at him, casting long, ghostly shadows that danced across his room. Now awake, Alex scrambled for a notepad, his hand shaking as he jotted down every detail of the apparition's message. The cryptic phrases stared back at him from the page, each word a chilling reminder of the night's ordeal. As the day broke, the mundane city noises were a stark contrast to the night's terrifying events. But for Alex, the city's usual vibrance was overcast by a grim shadow. The familiar aroma of roasting coffee from the shop below his apartment was overpowered by the lingering cold dread that clung to him. When the day's horrific prediction came true once more, as detailed on a late-night news bulletin, Alex could only stare at the screen in numb disbelief. He clutched the notepad tighter, the rough texture of the paper digging into his palms, a painful anchor to his grim reality. Now, more than ever, Alex felt a profound sense of isolation. He was trapped in a terror-filled cycle, his every day shadowed by the looming dread of the apparition's harrowing visits. The chilling figure was not just an eerie dream, but a horrifying reality, a reality he had to confront before it consumed him entirely. Sunlight poured into Alex's apartment, the golden rays contrasting harshly with the gloom that had seeped into his life. The scent of rain-soaked asphalt wafted in through the window, a refreshing respite from the dread that had become his constant companion. Despite the dread, he knew he couldn't remain a passive victim of his nightmares. It was time to seek answers. Dr. Lawrence was a renowned paranormal expert, a pillar of rational thought in a field shrouded in mystery and superstition. His office was located in the heart of the city, a stone's throw away from the bustling market square. As Alex approached, he could hear the symphony of life outside, the the chatter of crowds, the jingling of coins, the tantalizing aroma of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Yet these sounds felt distant, disconnected from his current reality. The office was a stark contrast to the chaotic world outside. The walls were lined with shelves filled with ancient texts, the air heavy with the smell of old paper and dust. Sunlight filtered through a stained glass window, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the hardwood floor. The muffled ticking of an antique clock resonated in the otherwise silent room, each second punctuating the air with a palpable tension. Dr. Lawrence, a man of advancing years with wise, inquisitive eyes, listened attentively as Alex recounted his chilling experiences. Alex's words hung heavily in the air, weaving an invisible tapestry of fear that seemed to fill the room. The warmth of the office, usually comforting, seemed to drain away, replaced by a chilling echo of Alex's terror. Intrigued by the ordeal, Dr. Lawrence proposed a theory. He suggested that Alex's experiences were not just nightmares, but premonitory hauntings. Their conversation was punctuated by the doctor's soft, reassuring voice and the scratching of his pen against paper as he noted down critical details. His words offered a flicker of hope amidst the engulfing dread. Emboldened by this newfound understanding, Alex felt an urgent resolve to combat the terror. As he left the office, the city seemed a little less ominous, the sharp smell of rain-drenched streets a little less oppressive, as if the mere act of sharing his experience had lifted some of the weight from his shoulders. The day faded into an obsidian night once again, the glowing city lights outside his window like watchful eyes peering into his solitude. As he lay in bed, anticipation gripped him. Another nightmare was imminent, but this time, Alex was not entirely unarmed. In the heart of his terror, Alex had found an ally. Armed with knowledge, he faced the approaching night, his spirit fueled by a sliver of hope amidst his relentless terror. Yet another disaster, as foretold by his eerie premonition, loomed on the horizon, a dreadful storm that was yet to pass. Under the unforgiving glare of his digital clock, a new day began for Alex. The 7 a.m. sunshine streamed through his windows, lighting up every corner of his room, revealing the disarray of his once meticulously organized space. An unfinished sandwich from the previous night, crumpled sheets of paper bearing the scribbles of his nightmares, and a cold cup of untouched coffee marked the signs of his deteriorating spirit. The predicted horror unfolded that day, a savage storm battering the city with an unrivaled ferocity. The howling wind seemed to carry whispers of his despair, echoing the turmoil within his soul. The chilling rain pelted his windows like 1,000 icy fingers scratching at the glass, matching the relentless dread gnawing at him from the inside. Haunted by the grim pattern of his premonitory dreams, Alex found himself pulling away from the world. His friends and colleagues, unaware of his terrifying ordeal, noticed the change. His once jovial laughter was replaced by a deafening silence, his typically bright eyes now shadowed with an indefinable fear. In the confines of his apartment, each tick of the clock seemed to echo ominously, the isolation gnawing at his sanity. The rooms that once offered comfort and sanctuary now felt claustrophobic, the walls closing in, swallowing him in their cold embrace. The familiar scent of his aged books, usually a comforting aroma, now hung heavily in the air, a stark reminder of his solitude. One night, as another terrifying vision played out in his dreams, a breaking point was reached. The apparition, his own future self, stood amidst a scene of catastrophic destruction, the gut-wrenching cries of the injured ringing in his ears. The smell of charred buildings and the taste of ash and fear made him choke. When he awoke, he found himself alone in the chilling silence of his room, his body shaking with sobs of frustration and fear. The apparition's cryptic message echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of the horrors that were yet to come. Each word felt like a stab in the dark, pushing him further into the depths of despair. Overwhelmed, Alex found himself longing for the mundane. He yearned for the trivial concerns of deadlines, the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the casual banter with his colleagues, and the simple pleasure of a good book. But his existence was now stained by the spectral hauntings, each day a ticking time bomb leading to the next horrific event. His life had become a terrifying roller coaster, where each ascent was marked by the fear of impending doom, and each plunge, a grim manifestation of his nightmares. The world outside his apartment continued its routine, oblivious to his plight, as he found himself spiraling further into the abyss of his own fear. In the heart of the city, Dr. Lawrence's office stood as a beacon of hope for Alex. As he walked in, the familiar scent of old books and dust mingled with a faint hint of jasmine tea, a stark contrast to the bleakness that had become a part of his daily life. Dr. Lawrence sat across from him, his eyes reflecting a determined resolve that seeped into Alex, kindling a spark of courage in his weary heart. The elderly expert proposed a daring plan, a deliberate attempt to intercept the ghostly apparition before the nightmare began. It required Alex to remain in a state of semi-consciousness, a delicate balance between wakefulness and sleep, to interact with the apparition. It was a risky endeavor, but desperation provided a compelling motivation. That night, as the city lights flickered like distant stars outside his window, Alex followed Dr. Lawrence's instructions. He brewed a pot of strong coffee, the robust aroma of the dark roast filling his apartment, and settled on his couch. His heart pounded in anticipation as he fought the allure of sleep, his eyes heavy but resolute. The world outside faded into obscurity as the night deepened, leaving Alex alone with the ticking clock and his waking nightmares. Time seemed to stretch, each minute feeling like an hour, as he hovered on the brink of sleep, the line between reality and his haunting dreams growing thin. Finally, as the clock blinked 2:22 a.m., the air seemed to drop a few degrees. An unseen energy rippled through the room, the hair on the back of his neck standing up in response. His eyes, heavy with exhaustion, flickered open to reveal the now familiar, ethereal figure. In this semi-conscious state, the apparition seemed even more foreboding, its shimmering form wavering like an echo in the dark. It spoke, its voice a hollow wind that seemed to wrap around him, sending shivers down his spine. This time, however, he was awake enough to respond, his voice shaking as he addressed the apparition, his words a desperate plea for it to stop. What followed was a moment that would forever be etched in Alex's memory. The apparition responded, its voice softening, the cryptic messages giving way to a discourse that hinted at its true nature. The words it spoke spun a tale of time, destiny, and the irreversible course of events, the gravity of its revelations taking a toll on Alex's strained consciousness. As dawn painted the sky in shades of gold, Alex woke, his body exhausted but his mind buzzing with the revelation. His apartment was silent, the ghostly figure gone, but the imprint of its message lingered. His experiment had provided more questions than answers, unearthing a complexity he hadn't anticipated, a chilling glimpse into the tangled web of his past, present, and future. It was a glimpse that would push him further into the labyrinth of his terrifying ordeal. In the face of the unknown, Alex decided to turn to the past for answers. Dr. Lawrence had suggested exploring old memories, believing that the apparition's messages were tied to past events. Thus began a journey into Alex's own history, an expedition into the recesses of his memories. His childhood home, now a 2-hour drive from the city, stood as a monument to a simpler time. The quaint house was nestled in the heart of the countryside, the smell of blooming flowers and freshly cut grass filling the air. The distant chirping of birds seemed to carry the melodies of his past, every note a remnant of a time untainted by his present horrors. The house was filled with relics from his childhood, faded photographs, dog-eared books, and a worn-out baseball glove. Each object was a doorway to a forgotten memory, opening the floodgates to moments of innocence, laughter, and undiluted joy. Yet, they also hinted at forgotten fears and buried secrets. One afternoon, while sifting through a box of old belongings, he discovered a set of worn-out journals. The sight of his juvenile handwriting brought a pang of nostalgia. As he leafed through the pages, he was taken on a journey through his younger days, each entry a snapshot of his past self. Amid the accounts of school, friends, and teenage dreams, a chilling pattern began to emerge. Entries that spoke of nightmares, haunting dreams of shadowy figures, and cryptic messages. It was a mirror of his present, a horrifying realization that his current ordeal had roots reaching far into his past. As twilight descended, the comforting hum of nature was replaced by an ominous silence. His childhood home, once a sanctuary of joyous memories, now seemed to echo with the whispers of his past. The scent of blooming flowers was tinged with the bitter aftertaste of fear, and the chirping of birds seemed to carry a chilling melody. Beneath the pale glow of his old bedside lamp, Alex found himself immersed in his journals. Every line painted a vivid picture of his past, revealing a part of him that had been suppressed, forgotten. A sense of dread settled over him as he delved deeper, the line between his past and present horrors blurring, merging into a single, terrifying entity. As the past unfurled itself, Alex was left to grapple with a newfound understanding. The apparition, once an enigmatic figure, now had an echo of familiarity. Each cryptic message, each chilling prediction, was not just a link to his future, but also a chain tethered to his past. His journey into the labyrinth of his own memories had only just begun, leading him closer to the chilling heart of his ordeal. Empowered by the revelations of his past, Alex returned to the city, a newfound determination taking root within him. The cityscape, once a landscape of dread, now felt like an arena where he would confront his fears. Each towering building stood like a silent sentinel against the sky, watching as he braced himself for the inevitable confrontation. Night fell, a dark cloak enveloping the world, leaving Alex alone with his thoughts. As the clock beside his bed blinked 2:22 a.m., he felt the familiar chill creep into his room. The air grew heavy with anticipation, each tick of the clock resounding like a heartbeat, pulsing in sync with his own. Then, as if summoned by his resolve, the apparition materialized, its ethereal presence casting an otherworldly glow in the room. Summoning his courage, Alex addressed the apparition. His voice was steady, the fear replaced with a burning need for answers. He demanded the ghost to reveal its connection to his past and cease the relentless cycle of terror. In the face of his defiance, the apparition shimmered, its form wavering as if caught off guard. Then it responded, its hollow voice filling the room. The spectral figure confirmed what Alex had suspected. It was an echo of his future self, a desperate call from a timeline filled with regret and anguish. Every word from the apparition sent shockwaves through Alex. The once familiar setting of his bedroom now felt like a stage set for an uncanny revelation. The familiar scent of his room was overpowered by the cold dread radiating from the apparition, and the shadows cast by the soft glow of the streetlights outside seemed to sway in tune with the figure's chilling confession. With every question that Alex fired, the apparition responded, each answer revealing a piece of the puzzling nightmare. The connection between his past, present, and future was laid bare, a complex web of decisions, consequences, and the relentless march of time. As dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky in a blush of colors, the apparition began to fade. Its final words echoed in Alex's ears, a warning, a plea, and a spark of hope. His room was once again claimed by the waking world, the haunting presence replaced by the familiar sights and sounds of the city coming to life. Now, alone with his thoughts, Alex grappled with the shocking revelations. He was trapped in a twisted game of time, his past and future converging on his present. Yet, in the face of the terrifying truth, he found a glimmer of hope. The ghostly visitations, once a source of relentless terror, now provided him with a clue, a chance to confront his impending doom, and a possibility to alter the course of his fate. In the wake of the confrontation, a profound understanding washed over Alex. He sat in his apartment, the breaking dawn casting long shadows that danced on his walls, his mind grappling with the weight of his predicament. His future self, driven by regret and despair, had transcended the boundaries of time to warn him, each horrifying premonition a desperate attempt to steer him from a path of devastation. The cryptic messages, once a source of dread, now formed a chilling prophecy. Each horrific event was not a random disaster, but the result of decisions he was yet to make. He was both the seer and the architect of the impending catastrophes, a paradox that shattered his previous understanding of reality. The world outside his window, bathed in the soft light of morning, held an eerie silence, as if reflecting his internal turmoil. The city he had grown up in, once a testament to human endeavor, now stood as a stark reminder of the potential devastation his future actions could incur. As he strolled through the familiar city streets, every face he saw, every building he passed, each echo of laughter or muffled conversation felt like a part of the catastrophic puzzle he was tasked to solve. The aroma of the city, the blend of car exhaust, fresh coffee, and distant sea filled his nostrils, each scent a reminder of the world he could save or destroy. The weight of his future was a heavy burden, each decision now casting a long, ominous shadow. With every step he took, every word he spoke, the consequences of his actions hung over him, an unseen sword of Damocles. Yet, in the heart of despair, a beacon of hope emerged. With the knowledge of the outcomes, he held a power most could only dream of, the power to change the future. Each day was now an opportunity, a chance to avert the disasters, to steer clear of the path his future self had so regretfully trodden. Underneath the starlit city sky, Alex made a solemn vow. The terrifying apparition, his own desperate future self, would not be his destiny. He would face the dread of his nightly premonitions, decipher the cryptic warnings, and reshape his path. It was a daunting task, a battle against time itself, yet a battle he was determined to wage, for his own sake and the world that unknowingly teetered on the precipice of his decisions. The familiar chill of 2:22 a.m. no longer held a terrifying sway over Alex. As the ethereal apparition materialized, its haunting luminescence casting otherworldly shadows around his room, Alex met it with determined eyes. The scent of cold dread that typically filled the room seemed to ebb, replaced by an underlying current of resolution. The apparition relayed its prophecy, the familiar voice echoing around him, no longer a terrifying lament but a cryptic guide to the labyrinth of his future. Alex listened intently, his mind weaving through the complexities of the message, deciphering the hidden warnings beneath the spectral riddles. When dawn broke, washing away the remnants of the spectral visitation, Alex sprung into action. Each decision he made, every step he took, was a carefully calculated move aimed at diverting the course of the prophesied disasters. His life had become a living chess game against fate, each day a new move against the adversary of his future self. As days turned into weeks, the pattern of his nightmares started to change. The horrifying visions began to lose their devastating edge, transforming into softer echoes of potential realities. His act of defiance was causing ripples in the fabric of his future, each successful prevention a victory against his once seemingly inevitable destiny. In his solitary battle, Alex found a purpose he had never known before. His once dreaded solitude was now his fortress, his determination, a potent weapon against the relentless march of time. The once menacing cityscape now stood as a testament to his small but significant victories, each sunrise a testament to his resilience. There was a change in Alex's spirit as well. His eyes, once clouded with fear, now sparkled with a fierce determination. His laughter returned, softer and tempered by his experiences, but present nonetheless. His colleagues noticed the change, the air around him no longer heavy with an indefinable dread, but pulsating with a quiet strength. Alex's ordeal was far from over. The ghost of his future self continued to visit, its presence a grim reminder of the path he once tread. Yet, each passing day, each averted disaster was proof of his growing strength and resolve. He was no longer a passive recipient of his destiny, but the active sculptor of his future. As the moon gave way to another day, Alex greeted the dawn with a newfound respect. Each breaking day was no longer a doorway to a horrifying prophecy, but a battlefield where he faced his fears, a symbol of his defiant stand against his terrifying past and an uncertain future. It marked the dawn of a new day, the birth of a changed man, one who was no longer haunted by the ghost of futures past, but who held the reins of his destiny. And so, dear listeners, we conclude this chilling journey into the vortex of time, where destiny danced on the edge of a nightmare. Remember, the shadows of the past and the echoes of the future intertwine within us all, spinning the threads of our own stories. Tune in again when the moon is high and the world sleeps for another dive into the abyss of fear and fascination. Until then, keep your eyes open, your senses alert, and your courage intact. For the realm of the uncanny is never too far, lurking just out of sight, waiting for our next terrifying tale. This is our Scary Stories signing off for tonight.